I'm in the big leagues, told her don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly.
What is up, football fans, UFL fans, but most importantly, Houston Roughnecks fans? That's right, I got the hat. I'm ready. I'm all in. Rough them up. Go Houston Roughnecks. Last week, if you watched the show, which a lot of you did, first of all, I want to give a big shout out to all the Roughnecks fans, all the XFL fans. I was very nervous coming into this space because the USFL and XFL, they have not always gotten along that well. And it's nerve-wracking for a guy like me who's been mostly USFL to come into the XFL space to get the Roughnecks name on the team that I've been covering and to think, okay, I can come in and cover this team and people will embrace me. I didn't think they would, but so far it has been fantastic. My first episode of Roughnecks Rundown, I changed it from Gamblers Table Talk to Roughnecks Rundown. It was my best show yet. I think we're almost at 650 views in the past 5 days since it came out. So thank you guys so much for embracing me, for welcoming me. I've absolutely loved this transition. I didn't know I'd love it, but this hat is so cool. I love the logos. I love making the new graphics. It's a blast. So last week, for all of you who watched, I did a physical representation of what happened to the team, right? They crudely pasted the Roughnecks logo onto the Gamblers team. I did that with my flag behind me. It was a Gamblers flag, and I put a little paper on it that was the Roughnecks logo. This week, I've updated it. I updated it to my Thompson Odom 2024 kind of like politician flag. I think it's fun. I think it's a really cool graphic. And shout out to Mark Thompson's parents, who I heard they also liked it and that they are fans of the show. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully Mark watches this one. But I thought it would be a little more fun. Some people in our network in UFM, they were like, dude, can we get a color printout to tape over the flag? And I said, okay, I got you. I did it. So I did it. I'm going to have a new flag, but I think this is a fun gimmick for a while we get used to the Gamblers players being Roughnecks players, but we'll get there. So we have a lot to talk about this week. So what happened? This morning, they announced the results of the dispersal draft. If you're following me on social media, if you're following me on Instagram and Twitter, it has now changed. Pocket Aces _ USFL is no more. It is upsetting. Oh, it's gone. But it has changed. Let me go change it right now on my thing. So it is Ace UFM and Ace at Ace _ UFM, because there is a Mexican channel that has Ace UFM, which is a long acronym, but I got that for Instagram. So we'll do that. That is my new handle. If you were following me this whole weekend, I announced I was able to get a hold of the names for a lot of the Roughnecks draft picks. So, you can call it a leak. You can call it discovering. I was scouring the internet. I was pushing my contacts, trying to figure out, who got drafted, who didn't. James Larson was putting in good work. He really got the ball rolling with the leaks. He got a lot of names out there for a bunch of the different teams, including the XFL teams, which our network is just starting to get contacts within the XFL and those teams. So that was really helpful. James Larson was doing that. And then once he got the ball rolling, I really kind of took it from there. And I started finding all the Roughnecks draft picks. I started posting all of them. There was only one that I had not posted. There was only one draft pick that had not been posted by the time that the full draft had been released this morning. So we'll get into why that happened. There was one, I had it, but I didn't announce it. And it was kind of out of respect for the player and a little bit of confusion with the situation. So I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I really want to get into this. It is super exciting. Roughnecks roster dropped. So as well as the dispersal draft, we also got the names of the 42 players along with the drafted players that were protected for the teams. So if you go look at it, the unprotected lists for all the teams, I think the Roughnecks had the shortest list by far. The DC Defenders basically dropped an entire team's worth of people, which is insane to me. That's crazy. But we only had, it'll come up later, but I think it was 12 names that were unprotected. Not awful. We hate to see players go, but it's nice that our team wasn't dropping just tons and tons of people. So that was really nice. So the roster drop. Let's get into this. So first thing, oh, let me actually click it. First things first, dispersal draft, the breakdown by position. This is interesting to me because you saw each team kind of gravitated towards a position group and really grabbed a lot of that. So for the Roughnecks, it was 6 defensive linemen, 6 offensive linemen, 3 linebackers, and then 2 wide receivers and 3 tight ends. That's actually wrong. So it was 3 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, 3 linebackers, 6 offensive linemen, and 6 defensive linemen. So 20 total. We used all of our picks. There were some teams that did not use all of their picks, didn't even come close. The Roughnecks took full advantage of the draft. Lionel Vitel, he was in there plucking them, but man, 6 defensive linemen and 6 offensive linemen. So a lot of people really liked that. Some people did not like that as much. And here's my kind of breakdown of it. So in the offseason, Lionel Vitel came in, he cut a bunch of players, and then he started signing players. Most of the players that he signed were defensive backs and some wide receivers sprinkled in there. So he did not really touch that. We had all of our running backs from last year. We got Mark Thompson signed back, Thompson Odom 2020, 2024. So we didn't need those positions specifically. He felt comfortable with the defensive backs that he had. He was calling some of them the week before the draft, letting them know, hey, you're protected. Hey, I have big plans for you guys. I really like this defensive back core that I put together. Some of them, they just didn't get a call and they took no news as good news as far as being protected. So he really felt comfortable with that. So what he did is he went in and he took 6 defensive linemen and 6 offensive linemen. Those are more than you start on the field usually at one time. He took like the 6 best of each, in my opinion, which is ridiculous because we suddenly have all of the talent in those areas. And part of that is now we have the best offensive and defensive line, I think. Defensive line, hands down. Nobody comes close to our defensive line now. You'll see that on the next slide. And offensive line, I think we have absolute dogs. The Gamblers had one of, if not the best offensive line last year, and we have absolutely added just some talent. So not only do we now have the best, but also having this many, we are keeping the best from other people, right? We have more than we need. Injuries happen in spring football. We saw it last year. The Stars started getting depleted, especially at offensive line, by injuries. That's an incredibly important position. So to have this many, we have, the depth that we need to stay competitive throughout injuries and also to help us stay ahead of other teams where when they start getting injuries, they don't have those reinforcements the way that we do. And it keeps us competitive into the playoff push and into the playoffs. So I can see that happening. And then as far as linebackers, tight ends, and wide receivers, it really felt like he just took best available at that point. So let's get into it. First of all, let's get into the defensive line, man. There are some names here. So Olive Sagapolu, humongously good. Well, he's also humongous. He's a huge dude. He stuffs that middle of the line. He was on the possibly best spring football defense that we've ever seen last year on the Pittsburgh Maulers. He had the fumble recovery that was almost a touchdown, but got called back last year for the championship. Olive is a huge get. He is really good. I would argue to say that he was the best defensive lineman on that line. Boogie is a close second. We love Boogie Roberts on this show, but Olive really separated himself from the pack last year. So to get that name was already huge. Then we have 2 guys from the Breakers, Reggie Howard Jr. and Keontae Shad. Keontae Shad was a dark horse last year that suddenly was like in the talks for all USFL. He was almost all USFL for our United Football Media when we put ours out. I'm sure he was in the talks for the actual league. This is a guy who is getting sacks at the defensive tackle position, which is not easy to do. When you look at defensive tackles, they really lead in, kind of QB pressures sometimes. And their biggest thing that they do is divert the running back and just impact the quarterback. They're not putting up big numbers. The fact that somebody like Toby Johnson, who you'll also see on here, he was getting a lot of tackles last year. Things like that are unheard of. Like, it's not unheard of, but it's different. It's above average. So the fact that Keontae Shad was up there on the sack list as a defensive tackle is just special. So the fact that we have him is crazy. Him and Olive Sagapolu already, those are two guys that are start day one guys. We have Reggie Howard, 2022 All USFL. He had a little bit of a down year in season 2. Not like a down year, but people like Keontae Shad just really started to shine. So when that happens, you know who gets knocked off the list? Well, Reggie Howard did. Then we have Ethan Westbrooks. Ethan Westbrooks is a guy, he started off in Pittsburgh in season 1. He moved over to the Panthers. He won Sportsman of the Year. I should have put that on there. I did not put that on there. He won Sportsman of the Year. He's a fantastic guy. I met him at the championship. He even recorded a video message for my brother, our Panthers representative. He's awesome. He's also very talented. He also has history with Quan Drake. Quan Drake, our defensive line coach for the Houston Roughnecks. I talked about him last episode. If you didn't hear about him, go watch that. Come back. All right, you're back. So Quan Drake coached Ethan Westbrooks in college. He said he was one of his favorite players to coach. So I do believe that that is why we picked him up, because from what I've gathered, the coaches that are really participating right now are Quan Drake, Eric Price, offensive coordinator, and then GM Lionel Vitale. I think those are the three main heads that were, attacking this draft and have been reaching out to players. So I think one of the reasons that we got so many defensive linemen is because our defensive line coach was playing a big part in the draft process. And you could see that by he literally went and got one of his favorite guys that he coached in college. He loves his demeanor. He loves the positivity and the energy he brings to practice. So that's great. Then we move back down to one of the biggest names on this list, on the entire list, not just defensive line. Toby Johnson, one of two-time All USFL players in the league. The only other one was Jaron Jones. I'm not completely sure how to say that. I apologize. An offensive lineman for the Memphis Showboats and then Tampa Bay Bandits the year before. He's one of two players that has ever made the All USFL list 2 years in a row. So getting Toby Johnson is huge. Now, he is the player that I left off of the list. He wasn't contacted by Quan Drake immediately after the draft. He was saying today he wasn't contacted. There was some, just a little bit of drama that went down with it. I'm not sure what happened, but he seems to be okay now. So I put him on here for the show. Toby Johnson, if you watch this man, I've known him. I interviewed him since before season 1, before the season started. We interviewed him once he got drafted by the New Jersey Generals. I love Toby. He's still to this day one of my favorite interviews, and I am ecstatic to have him on my team and to be able to cover him. So, Toby, if you're watching this, rough him up, man. I am so excited to see you in the red, white, and blue, the Texas flag colors. It's going to be a good time. I promise you, we're going to have a great time. And then, last but not least on this list, we have defensive end Adam Rodriguez. Adam Rodriguez was a 2023 All USFL. He had 6 sacks in 2023, and he made the All USFL list. When he had 9 sacks in 2022, he holds the current modern USFL record for the most sacks in a career at 15 sacks. He had 9 in season 1, 6 in season 2. The most over that period in the 2 seasons, 15. Adam Rodriguez holds it. Adam Rodriguez is an absolute beast. In season 1, when Chris Odom was on the leaderboard, every week, Adam Rodriguez was right there with him. At some points, you thought he might take the sack leader, trophy from him. So the fact that now we have re-signed Chris Odom, we have now drafted Adam Rodriguez. We have two, I would say, the 2 best defensive ends at sacking the quarterback on our team. Not to mention, then we have 3 of the best defensive tackles in the league. Then you look at what we'll get into later with the roster. Raheem Bingham, Isaiah Chambers. Raheem Bingham was on the sack leaderboard all year last year. Isaiah Chambers led the league in tackles for loss. This defensive line is actually ridiculous. It's almost unbelievable. I don't think Lionel Vitale has ever played Madden or anything, but I think this is as close as you can get in real life to playing Madden Ultimate Team. That's actually how it feels, because he's taking all these all-stars, literally 3 all USFL defensive linemen. He's taking sack leaders. He's taking, league leaders in stats, and he just stockpiled them onto a defensive line. That's crazy. That shouldn't be able to happen, but it did, and it's scary. It's wild to see. This is how I want to put it to you. We can have the number 1 defensive line, and then we can rotate that entire line out, and we can bring in the second best defensive line in the league, because we have that many star players. This is the NFL equivalent, the USFL equivalent of in the NFL. If we had Max Crosby, Joey and Nick Bosa, Chris Jones, Aaron Donald, and Danielle Hunter all on the same team. Just all on the same team rotating out. That's basically what this feels like. So it's crazy. I cannot wait to see what this looks like on the field. Barring injury, this is going to be a masterpiece of defensive line work. I cannot wait to see it. So let's move on to the next thing that we have. The other one that we just stockpiled on is offensive linemen. Let's move down this. Shamarius Gilmore. That is possibly the most influential name that we drafted. Shamarius Gilmore is a dog. The Stars offensive line last year was not amazing. Everybody knows that. Case Cookus was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league. He was taking a pounding. Shamarius Gilmore had nothing to do with that. He was on our USFL top 50. He was one of the highest graded offensive linemen by PFF last year in the USFL. He is a day one starter, like possibly 2024 all UFL team if they decide to do that. Yeah, he's a starter. That's so good, especially because we released Jordan Steckler. We released Tyler Higbee. These are guys who started for us. Tyler Higbee the past 2 years. Jordan Steckler last year. Jordan Steckler had some injury issues, and so I am assuming that's why he was released, because that guy is very, very good. So the fact that we then brought in a guy who is just a day one starter, like people mover, ridiculous. Now we move on. Paul Adams, 2023 All USFL, another very, very highly graded offensive lineman from PFF. Paul Adams is a technical guru, and he's, those two probably are starting guards day one. If I got to say it, Shamarius Gilmore and Paul Adams probably left and right guard. I don't know which side, but those are our starting guards. Then we move into Isaiah Battle. Isaiah Battle is a guy that people battled over. There was a trade from the Generals to the Maulers after season 1 of the USFL, and the teams were battling over him, and he ended up back on New Jersey because they wanted him so much that they kind of did a little shady things to get him back on the team. Crazy stuff. And then Robert Myers, who is a Super Bowl champion. He is one of a few Super Bowl champions that we drafted. He, I cannot remember what team he played for when he was drafted or when he played in the Super Bowl. He was obviously like a practice squad guy, more fringe dude, but he does have a Super Bowl ring. He was actually drafted in the NFL. He has been in basically every spring league that has existed. If you want to talk AAF, you want to talk XFL 2.0, XFL 3.0, he was not a part of because he was in the USFL 2.0. He's been in all of it, man. I think he was even in the spring league. Like, this dude has been in all the spring leagues. He's a veteran. He's going to be a great presence. And the picture of him over here, shirtless, is wild. This dude is a dog. Then we have Jack Kramer and Marcus Tatum. These are two guys who have been together on the New Orleans Breakers last year. These are just very good guys. Will they be day one starters? I'm not 100% sure, but it's great to have depth, and we kept them away from other teams. Like I said earlier, yes, we took a lot of players, and it's like, you can't start all of them. Okay, but neither can other teams if we have them. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with that. Then we move on to linebackers. This one is a splash. People are so excited. People are hyped. Reuben Foster, man. That was one of the first leaks that came out courtesy of James Larson. And that's a huge one. I'm jealous he got to announce that, because over here, I already did a jersey swap of him, Reuben Foster. I'm going to talk about that later too. But the dude is a former first-round pick. He won awards at Alabama. Like, he's a dog. The dude played last year. He was going to be Defensive Player of the Year if he didn't get injured. If you ask Jaron Horton, his defensive coordinator, I don't know who else would be better to ask about that. So I believe him. So we have him, who is just ridiculous. When you look at, we have, JT Daniels, we have Kalen Tolson, we got these good guys, and now we add a veteran presence, an absolute physical freak in Reuben Foster. Craziness. Then we have Gabriel Sewell and Bryson Young. These are two guys I very much like. Gabriel Sewell, he's a starter, I believe, the past 2 seasons on the Philadelphia Stars. He's very good friends with Adam Rodriguez, who I talked about on the defensive line page. He's a dog. The dude is not afraid to stick his head in there. He's a heavy hitter. I love having him on there. He's also going to be a great presence in the locker room. He's going to feed into that dynamic well. I don't know if Lionel Vitale was thinking about that when he drafted players like him, but that is something that I'm thinking about when I'm looking at these. He's going to be a great guy to have in that locker room to really build the team and, build a community. So I'm very excited about that. Then outside linebacker, Bryson Young. This is a guy that a lot of people probably outside of Generals fans weren't paying that much attention to, and they possibly should have been. he was kind of their linebacker 3. They had Chris Orr, they had Dwan Jones. Bryson Young kind of fell to the wayside when people were focusing on the linebackers, but this dude is kind of crazy. He's 6'5". He has incredibly long arms. He runs a 4.8, 440. This is a guy who is a physical freak. Like, you should not be able to be a linebacker and be 6'5" all at the same time. I have a best friend who's 6'5" and he was an offensive lineman. And to think about him trying to, rush the passer and also drop into coverage is insane. He can't do it. So the fact that Bryson Young can is crazy. This guy coming out of Oregon, so he was playing a fast-paced defense. Very excited. I think he's kind of a dark horse here. I keep saying dark horse, but he's kind of a guy that people aren't going to be thinking about too much that I think could make this roster and make it better. So I'm excited about that. New tight ends. Not as much to say here. Woody Brandom, he's a good tight end that, he can go and he can block for you. He can catch some passes. Then Ryan Izzo, another Super Bowl champion. He was on the New England Patriots. He played under Bill Belichick. He doesn't just take anybody. So Ryan Izzo, another good pass catcher. And then Braden Bowman, probably my favorite of the tight ends that we took. He is a great pass catcher. He's kind of a beast going out there. So Braden Bowman is a really good one. I like these tight ends. When you look, we dropped Brandon Barnes this offseason. We still have Rodell Rahman and Clint Sig. Those guys are great. Rodell Rahman is basically like the dude is cut from stone. He can block, like he's been working on his blocking, but he's also very fast. So when he gets the ball, he's good in open space and good at getting some tough yardage. Clint Sig, kind of your utility can do everything kind of guy. He's never afraid to put his nose in there. So those two guys, they're going to have competition. Like, I really like our tight end room now. Usually an overlooked position if you're not Jay Sternberger or Sage Surratt. But this is a competition that I think could get very heated and be pretty difficult in camp. So I want to keep track of that, and I'll keep you all updated, obviously, as we go. Now we move on to wide receivers. This one, Isaiah Henney, fearless returner. I put that because this is a guy who does not fair catch. He will return the ball. That's bonkers. That's dangerous, and that's awesome. Isaiah Henney, fantastic person. I love having him in this locker room. I think he's going to be great for the team dynamic, but also we don't have to put Justin Hall back there on returns. Isaiah Henney was the best punt returner last season, and we have him back there. Justin Hall, we don't want to get him injured. Like, they are interchangeable at the slot. Sometimes they are both incredibly quick moving, fast, and sure-handed pass catchers. The fact that we have both of them is kind of crazy. I don't even know if we can hold on to both, but I would love it if we had both Justin Hall and Isaiah Henney. Now, Cyril Grayson, our last Super Bowl champion that we have on here. Cyril Grayson went to LSU. He did not play football. He was a track runner, but he was not allowed to play football because if you play a minor sport in college, you are not allowed to also play a major sport because they don't want conflict of interest with the scholarship money. Cyril Grayson was a track star at LSU. He's so fast. He literally never played a down of college football. He went to LSU's pro day and he got signed as an undrafted free agent by the Seattle Seahawks. He is very famous for, if you go look, I almost put it on here, but it felt cruel. He has a Super Bowl ring with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the year that they demolished the Chiefs in the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. There is a time he was activated during that season. He actually played in a few of the regular season games, and there is a famous video of him that he took a ball off the face from Tom Brady, a perfectly placed ball, doinked it off his face, and people lit him up online. He embraces it. It's funny, but that is where a lot of people would recognize him from. He is a speed merchant. He's also 30 years old, but I was thinking about it. If you didn't play in college football, like, you could basically take those 4 years off. So it's almost like he has the wear and tear of a 26-year-old wide receiver, which is fantastic. So these are two very fast wide receivers. We have the bigger guys. We have the guys who can go up and get it in Isaiah Zuber, Kiki Chisholm, Anthony Ratliff-Williams. So adding more speedy, smaller slot guys like this, I like it. I like adding the depth. Sorry, my voice is, I've been sick, so my voice is a little hoarse. Nay. All right. Non-protected. Let's get into something that sucks. It's not fun. I was not looking forward to this. I wasn't happy that it was happening, but it happened and we got to talk about it. These are the players that were not protected when the team had to cut down to 42 players. If I put an asterisk next to their name, that denotes that they were a free agent signing this offseason and they actually never played or showed up to the organization. So, Benny LeMay, he actually wore a Gamblers jersey. Josh Avery, Damian Daniels, Chris Garrett, Guy Thomas. These are guys who actually showed up and were signed last season. they got to play in games or at least were there for meetings and stuff. Gene Coleman, Justin Ford, Jalen Green, Gabe Burchick. These are players that we signed, and they were cut before they ever got to actually be a Gambler or a Roughneck. So I don't love seeing that. I'm very surprised that Justin Ford is on this list. He was one of the best man-to-man corners in Division I football back at Montana University. So very surprised to see him on this list. Elijah Jones, he's the corner. Last year, he did an absolutely incredible and acrobatic one-handed catch, I think, against the Stars. So, he was a highlight reel. The fact that they're both gone, it's a little confusing. Benny LeMay makes sense. We have a lot of running backs. We have good talent. We re-signed Mark Thompson. That probably sealed his fate. Montel Cozart is a surprise. We just re-signed Montel Cozart with Kenji Bahar. They signed at the same time. So to see him on this list is interesting, and let's get into why. So if we go look at the full roster now, alphabetical order, we see all the 20 players that we signed in the draft that we drafted from other teams. It has their previous team on there, but some things to talk about. So defensive line, we kept a lot. We kept Tim Bonner. We kept Isaiah Chambers, Ronheen Bingham. We kept, Chigozie Inuruka. We kept a lot of our own defensive line, which surprised me once I realized that we drafted 6 more. So we have a huge defensive line room. We're going to see probably a decent amount of cuts there. But I don't even know who you cut because we have literally all the dogs in the league on defensive line. But another thing to notice is that we only have 2 quarterbacks now. That is interesting. The fact that they dropped Montel Cozart. Everybody was kind of disappointed when I had released the final names on that were being leaked for the draft. Once Larson, me, maybe USFL analyst, I'm not sure who all dropped Roughnecks names. I know James Larson and me did. Once we had dropped 19 of them, I didn't drop Toby Johnson. But once we had dropped 19 of them, everybody was like, where's the quarterback? Yes, Kenji played well enough to get us to 500 last year. Yes, he made some very, very impressive throws. Is he the quarterback of the Roughnecks future? A lot of people don't think so. And, I'm always going to support him. If he's going to wear the jersey and he's going to play for us, I'm going to support him. But I would like to see someone come in who can at least compete, to take the starting job. Last year, I heard that, Terry Wilson, they really didn't trust his arm as much, so they brought him in for running packages, but they never gave him a chance to really beat Kenji out. Montel, he's kind of just another Kenji. Then we have Jarrett Garantano, who we just signed recently out of Washington State and Tennessee. He basically just feels like another Kenji to me. So I'm like, at what point do we get our Case Cookus? Do we get our Alex Magoo? Do we get our MBT? And I was also sort of annoyed when I was releasing, the players that I was discovering that we had drafted. I was like, where's the QB? Where's the QB? It never came. But once we saw the unprotected names and saw that now we only have 2 quarterbacks, there is another one coming. Now, there's 2 options for where that comes. We got the official press release today. The draft is going to be the 15th, and that's going to be another, I believe, up to 10 players per team that they can take from either XFL or USFL side. Then there is free agency that opens up again on the 16th. So we could draft a quarterback from the XFL or USFL. We didn't draft, nobody drafted Troy Williams. Very surprising to me. We could draft Troy Williams. I mean, that feels like we're adding another Kenji, a pocket passer who can also do it with his legs. It feels like we're getting the same archetype of quarterback, but he was good enough with a good enough defense to take them to the championship last year. So why not? I'd be down. Brandon Silvers, I believe, is still out there. We have a couple of XFL quarterbacks. I still don't know the rosters that well, but we could grab one of those guys. Personally, I don't believe that's what's going to happen. I have this theory that I don't think Lionel Vitale likes spring quarterbacks that much. I don't think he really liked what he saw when he went and was doing his research on the quarterbacks in these leagues. I think today, right now, is Black Monday in the NFL. This is dropping tomorrow morning, but Black Monday in the NFL, there's a lot of players that are being released from practice squads or being released from NFL rosters that aren't going to get a futures deal. Lionel Vitale was an NFL exec for a long, long time, whether he be a scout or be, just an executive in the building. he has been watching these players for years. I think there's a couple quarterbacks that he has his eye on that if they don't sign a futures deal, he's going to reach out to. And I think we're going to get a guy straight from NFL cuts. That's my, guess. That's what I believe is going to happen. We'll see. We'll see. It's very exciting. When you look at this, another thing to notice is that the linebackers, we really kept a lot of them. We still have JT Tyler. We still have, where are the names I'm looking for right now? Wow, we have Kalen Tolson, JT Tyler. I'm losing it. Young. What is his name? Okay. Isaiah Pryor. So we still kept the linebackers. We really did not have many linebackers. And that last year was kind of the point of we didn't have that many, but we had a ton of DBs. And so Chris Wilson, the defensive coordinator, really put in a lot of packages where we'd bring in an extra defensive lineman, or we bring in a nickel and a dime defensive back for different packages to bring in different blitzes, different looks. So we weren't linebacker heavy. So the fact that we signed 3, two might go. Like two of the linebackers that we have now may be gone. But the defensive backs, literally none of them were from the draft. We still have Donald Rutledge Jr., who, until he got hurt last year, was the heaviest hitter in the safeties. We have Manny Bunch, who was a 2023 All USFL safety. We have Jeremiah Johnson back. Dude, our defensive backs are going to be good. No worries. We have young names too. We have Richard Bowens, the third RB3. If you haven't watched my interview with him, that is a fantastic guy. We have Elijah Rogers out of Clemson. Dude, we just have athletes. So I'm not worried. This is a fantastic team. Literally at this point, if we pick up a quarterback that is NFL caliber, that is, one of those fringe guys that maybe didn't survive Black Monday, this is easily a championship team. And that's all I have to say about that roster. So one last thing before you go, social admin challenge. So I did my jersey swap of Reuben Foster, the A special right here. I wanted to announce he got drafted. I put a graphic at the bottom of him on the Maulers. And then the social team today, they were the first team. I think there's a couple more now, but they were the first team to drop a jersey swap, and it was of Reuben Foster. And so I just wanted to know. I feel like they challenged me. They wanted to know head to head who's got the juice. And I want you guys to tell me who's got the juice. Let me know in the comments. Which one do you think better? Jersey swap. Which jersey swap do you think is more believable? The one on the left that I did, or the one on the right that the social team did? Let me know. I'm excited to see what you say. I'll give you another second to look at it. But I feel like I did a really clean one, and I felt personally challenged by the social team. Alyssa Klosterman, I know you're over there. I know you're challenging me. I know you see my stuff online, so just let me know. But a lot to like about this team, a lot to be excited about, especially if you look at that defensive line. This team is actually bonkers. So, man, if you're not already excited, be excited. Mark Thompson, Chris Odom, 2024 for Houston. Dude, this is going to be a fun time. I'm so excited. Until next time, rough them up, drill baby drill, go Roughnecks. I'll see you on the
I'm in the big leagues, told them don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, hey, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh. Send it through